Hey, everybody, welcome to In the Books, the podcast where we sit down with the authors shaping the American fire service one page at a time. I'm your host, David Rhodes, and today I'm thrilled to have on a fire service icon, educator, a friend, and no stranger to fire engineering readers and FDIC attendees, Chief Anthony Avillo. Chief Avillo served the North Hudson Regional Fire and Rescue in New Jersey for over 30 years, retiring as a deputy chief. He's a nationally respected instructor and core figure at the Fire Department Instructors Conference, where his commanding presence and tactical insights have made him a staple in the classrooms and the keynote stages alike. He's retired as the director of the Monmouth County Fire Academy in New Jersey, continuing to shape the future of the fireground leadership. If you've studied strategy, if you've ever sat in a classroom at FDIC or flipped through the pages of fire engineering, chances are you've been influenced by Chief Avillo. He's the author of the best-selling Fireground Strategies, now in its fourth edition, foundational text used in fire officer development programs across the country. We're going to talk command, culture, chaos, and maybe a little classic rock. So let's open the book with Chief Anthony Avillo. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, my brother. Great to see you. Go back a long time, man. A long time.
A very long time. I was actually trying to figure that out, and I'm assuming it was probably my first FDIC in Indy, which would have been 97, 98-ish.
Okay.
And then I think we probably started hanging out somewhere around 2000, 99, 2000 when you guys were doing the truck search class.
Yeah, that was it.
Because we were all hot instructors at the Hampton at that time.
Yes, my first year was 99, and Mike Nasta and Alvarez brought me in. And yes, the Hampton, the infamous Hampton. But I think that's when I met you.
And then a couple of other notable things is we had our Wednesday night tradition of heading over to the live music blues venue there, sitting up on the second floor. That was a Wednesday night deal.
Yep.
We have the hot dinner over there. Now on Tuesday night.
Yeah, that was over. It was a little further away. I don't remember where it was. I could picture the place, but I don't remember where it was.
And then another great memory is I don't even know how long ago this was. Somehow you and I ended up on the small stage at the Colada doing some Bruce Springsteen karaoke song. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember being up there. I know you got mad at me because I didn't know the words to all the Bruce Springsteen songs.
No, you're supposed to.
And I'm like, I'm a Jimmy Buffett guy.
I think it was Born in the USA. And if you remember, Bobby Halton was dancing on his knees on the floor.
That's right. That's right.
Right in front of us.
That was a classic Halton night.
Yeah, that was fun. And Eileen Brennan was doing the ooh-oohs when I did Sympathy for the Devil.
I missed the Colada.
Yeah.
I missed the Colada. That was a great spot.
It was everybody went there. It was where we could all sort of gather. Which is what we're good at doing.
That's it. That's one of the greatest parts of FDIC. All right, man, you got this book in the fourth edition now. Wow. Yeah. That's a lot of editions because we don't update them, but about every 5 years or so. So book's been around a minute.
Yeah, quite a minute.
How did this thing come about?
Well, the very beginning was, if you remember, Peter Hodge. Peter Hodge was, I think he was in charge of the books, or he was something, in fire engineering. And I approached him with a scenarios book. And he said, they're looking for somebody to rewrite McAniff, which was Strategic Concepts in Firefighting. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. I'll throw all the scenarios in, all that. He goes, great. So I got a contract, and about maybe a year later, I ran into Chief Dunn. It was the first time I met him, and I told him what I was doing. He goes, why would you write a book and put someone else's name on it? Because it was going to be a McAniff book, but, updated by me, sort of like what Corbett does. And at some point, McAniff's family wanted a lot of money to use his name, and fire engineering just said, this is your book now. So that was the first book. And it happened sort of right when we regionalized. So if you looked at it, it was only about that thick. And the second edition was about 7 years later, and I had gotten so much more experience in a regional department, and it was that thick. in 2015 even more, and 20 the new one 2025 it will probably be the last. I'm going to turn it over to somebody else.
Yeah.
But
This thing gets used a lot in the it's on a lot of reading lists for promotions and stuff. I know that.
Yeah, and universities too.
Yeah.
A lot of colleges use it. And when I go out places, to speak and stuff, I find out that more and more places use it than I thought. And, you look at a place like Florida, and it's not a very Florida book, but they only use specific chapters, but they've used it all over the state. It's like the state curriculum. So not New Jersey, though. Not yet.
What was the major changes from the third edition to the fourth edition?
Well, from the second to the third, the UL and all the NIOSH, they were getting all the fire dynamic stuff was beginning to sort of surface. So I had that in the third edition, but the fourth edition, I was able to bring it further. But, there's so many more things going on now. There's the EV, there's the explosion of the engineered type of building construction. I have things in here on mass casualty incidents and active shooter. And, I talked to a lot of people, and North Hudson Regional has been a really good resource for me because I wrote a lot of the SOPs, but a lot of the new ones coming out, I have access to, so I used those to help me sort of write on things that, I've kind of never experienced, but there's just I'm very proud of this one because I tried to shrink it down. But then when I started putting new things in and being exposed to things, it just kept getting bigger. And, again, it's a 600-page book, and what was really funny about this one, we were at the board meetings, and the van pulled up to take us to the airport. And in the van on the front bench was Chief Brunacini. And I was in the spot where I can get in the van first. So I made sure I sat next to him, and we talked for about 2 hours, and I had given him the leadership book. And he asked me about the strategies book. And I said, well, the last one should have been called the last edition. And he said, his voice, like, well, why don't you want to do something like that? You have a good, you just retired. You're still, vital, and you have this and that. He goes, you should write the fourth edition. As soon as I got home, I started taking notes to write the fourth edition. So thank you, Chief Brunacini. It's really because of him that I wrote that book.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So who's this book tailored for? What part of their career? Who exactly is the audience for this thing?
Well, I think it kind of spans every rank in a lot of ways. I always thought that if you're a firefighter, one, you should be thinking about getting promoted all the way up, but you also have to understand the thought process of the people who are commanding your fires, the people that you're working for. If you're a company officer, you're responsible to be a step ahead of that. But, for command officers, I think it's really, really aimed at a command officer, how to, manage a fireground, how to deal with, freelancing. There's lots of rules of thumb in there. And like I said, I think it's all ranks, but I think for the most part, if you're an incident commander, which could be any rank in any department, especially, a smaller or volunteer department, it's aimed really towards the incident commander,
Yeah. Good. So you had some fun with this one, a little bit with the cover, and you can pay me later because Diane was a hard no.
I know.
As soon as you sent it to her, and I had to soften her up a little bit.
Yeah, how did you?
I was like, "It's the fourth." I said, "It's a fourth edition, Diane." I said, "Let's have a little personality, have a little fun with it." I said, "It's probably going to be the last edition for him." And so she slowly kind of,
yeah,
but she conceded. So she conceded, and we got it done. So tell us a little bit about that cover.
Thank you, Diane. And I'm not going to do my Diane voice because everybody has one. And that's because we love you so much. I don't know, I was going through a whole bunch of pictures and things like that. And, at the fire academy, if you see behind me, my daughter's made the thing. It says, God, the Beatles, firefighters, everybody else. So I was sort of on that kick. And, at the fire academy, we would tell people that, you're never going to be a Beatle, but you've And this was from one of my classes that they gave me this as a present at the end of the Fire One class. And I just started thinking about it. And the first thing I thought about was the White Album, just
Right.
a white cover, Fireground Strategies. But I said, you guys already had the white cover,
Yeah.
And then
That
I
was
was
a
thinking,
Manning thing. Yeah.
what else could I do it on? And somehow I just came across Abbey Road, and I spoke to Deputy Chief Al Prats, who is a rising star, a North Hudson guy. He's written for us, and I went up there and I said, "Get me 4 guys and let's shoot this cover." And Ron Jeffers actually was there and he helped shoot it, but it wasn't right. One guy didn't have his gloves on, another guy's chin strap wasn't on. So after I looked
Of
at it
course.
and my head exploded, I called them back. I said, "We have to redo it." And then he went and scouted the best places to do it. So if you look at the book, it's actually taken in Weehawken. We were going to put the third firefighter in Bare Feet, but we didn't. Like Paul McCartney was, he is out of step with the other 4. But if you look behind, that's Hudson Yards in New York City. And years ago, when Hudson Yards wasn't there, you could see the Empire State Building from that spot. So I tried to utilize the whole North Hudson thing, the Beatles thing, and sort of listen, we're very proud that we're that close. We're directly on the Hudson River. New York City's right across the street. If I had a good arm, I could hit it with a rock. But it's got all those influences in there. And I'm really proud of it. And thank you so much for going to bat for that, because I think it's, even the people of fire engineering said, you know what, that's the coolest cover we ever did, and we're all really excited for it. So
Yeah.
thank you. And
It is cool.
Yeah, it is cool, right?
Love it. Love the tie-in.
Yeah.
Got to have some fun every now and then.
Yeah.
So you talk about proactive leadership throughout the book. What can a young officer start doing to build that kind of leadership presence before they even get into a command position?
Well, command presence, as Chief Flood said, command presence, like command confidence, is built on command competence. And I think you have to be a studier. I think you have to be a lessons learned guy. I mean, I in every class I do, I show the 30s Fires book. And I tell people, you need to get this book. You need to understand what has happened before. And I think for me, I was always a very big sort of lessons learned guy. I was an observer. And I think that's one of the most important things a fire officer should do. I think there's too much in this country of what I call sandbox leadership. Your head in the sand, very insular, and you don't look out anywhere. And listen, there are big fire departments out there, but this is a very big country, and there are things out there that you can learn lessons from. And I think you have to be a lesson learner from day one on the job. And I think that allows you to be a proactive leader and proactive incident commander, and then being a good after action guy, is really important, because we can look back and say, okay, where did we go wrong? Oh, and you know what? We went wrong on this 2 fires in a row. Well, why? Now we have to look and say, well, maybe we have to build some policy on this, and that was one of the things in North Hudson. We had a lot of policy on things because we, regionalized 5 departments at once, and and we had to have that. And we made a lot of mistakes, and I made a ton of mistakes, but I learned, and it's not perfect, but if you can get better, never let today be the best you'll ever be. It's my mantra.
Right. What who were some of the biggest influences that you had coming up? I know you said your first FDIC was 99.
Mm-hmm.
I know both of us met a lot of big influencers through that whole process, which is another benefit of going to events like that. But who were some of yours?
Well, obviously Dennis Smith. I read Report from Engine Company 82 in 7th grade. I lived up the block from the 16th Street Firehouse in Union City. So, I always had that little bit of a bug there, going forward, just like you, I read John Norman, Brannigan. Here's my Brunacini book. It's fallen apart, huge influence. Chief Dunn, huge influence. And actually, a very good friend, now I call him Uncle Vinny, Kevin Malley, who was my boss at New Jersey City University. He was an FDNY guy. He was the one that was involved in the PPE performance and the human performance. He was way ahead of his time. But my biggest influence, really, quite honestly, was Ed Flood. And Ed Flood and I wrote the leadership book together. And I mean, I could sit here and talk about him all day. But the thing he said to me, I got on the job October 1st, 1984. I knew him from the gym. He had come to the gym. He had a Weehawken Fire sweatshirt on. And I said, man, I'm on the list. My cousin was a captain in North Bergen. And I went over there with no applications left. And he said, go get him in Weehawken, same application. Put your name for Weehawken too. You never know. I got it. I came out high on both lists. North Bergen didn't hire. They had a freeze. And Weehawken hired me. And the first day I got there, Chief Flood, who was then Captain Flood, and he was on the snarling ladder 22, a truck 22, the triple deuce. He said to me, if you leave here tomorrow morning and this place isn't just a little bit better because you were here, then you didn't do your job. And I believe that then. I believe it now. I passed that on in every class. But the cherry on the cake, I guess, or the cherry on top of the ice cream was the Full Contact Leadership book that I was able to do with him. And he's gone now. He passed away about a year after the book was published, 2 years. And but yeah, he was certainly my biggest influence. My father, of course, my dad passed away when I was 17. He was very big in athletics and that sort of thing, and was coaching, and everybody still remembers him. But if you have good influences in your life, my head coach in North Bergen, I did an article for Fire Engineering called "Groomed on the Gridiron."
Mm-hmm. That was a great one.
Yeah. I had thought about that for a really long time, and
yep.
I put it out, and Paul Combs gave me a great cartoon for it.
Right.
I've just been very, very fortunate to have great people in my life at just the right times to sort of regenerate my spark. Mm-hmm. I think that's important. You think you have to look for that a little bit, and sometimes you find it when you're not looking for it.
Yeah. You can't just sit in your own department and expect it to happen naturally. Sometimes you got to get out and see what other folks are doing. And it does inspire you. That's why they say FDIC is like a battery charge for, mm-hmm. folks to come every year. And it's because you see the enthusiasm and you're not restricted by just the daily grind of the same thing. So
yeah, it's like,
that's awesome.
I got that article coming out in August about the metaphors of leadership: the rock, the ghost, the faux rock, and the bowl of Jello. And the thing with fire engineering and the FDIC is the young rocks find each other, and they become like this, and they become mountains. And that's the beauty of the FDIC.
Yeah. And your old mentor there, Captain Flood. What a name! It's got to be an iconic guy with a name like Captain Flood.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh God. Yeah. Well, we had a company called Study Group, and you look at New Jersey right now, and just about every chief of every career department was a Study Group student. Wow. As I said to you before, the best mentors don't try; they just do the right thing, and people notice.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So get into the book a little bit. Size up. It's always a critical first function. Is there anything updated on the size up and our, constant battle with lightweight construction and now the rapid fire spread, the vent limited? Has anything changed in that area?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think size up. One of the things about size up that I push in the book is size up is it's an everyday thing. It's pre-fire street intelligence. It's knowing your buildings. It's knowing everything about your response, and it's an all senses activity. It's learning through education. It's learning through experience. It's learning through the experience of others. But again, you have to have education. You have to be in the books, because you look at a building, and nowadays sometimes the novice is going to mistake a engineered lightweight building for an ordinary constructed building. Because it's got brick on it. Actually, I have an article I should be sending in relatively soon called, our size up might be killing us, because there are so many things out there that we make mistakes on size up. You look at the NIOSH 5 and the line of duty deaths, and they look at, you have to do a proper size up. You got to do a 360, and there's so many things that have done that, but, the book has, I changed I use Cole as Wealth, it come out of New York City, and a lot of people use it, but I changed the H. Instead of hazardous materials, it's hazardous situations, because we go to hazardous situations, and, it's not just hazardous materials. And it allowed me now to sort of pull in a bunch of other things, but Size Up chapter is chapter 1, and it sort of sets the stage of the book. The first 3 chapters are the command chapters, and it sets the stage for figuring out what you got, figuring out who you got and how to set it up, and then figuring out how to organize it.
What's the commandment of control?
The commandment of control. It's a good question. The commandment of control is always be in control, always stay in control. Through decentralization and delegation, all that, but always stay in control. From minute 1 till minute end. When you let your guard down, things can get bad quickly.
What's the balance in that and micromanaging? A lot of people will mistake things for micromanaging, and a lot of people do micromanage. So talk about that a little bit from your perspective.
Well, it's kind of funny. This is one of the only things I agree with Castros on. No, I'm just kidding. The strategic level, the tactical, and the task level. The incident commander has to be at the strategic level. Too many times in IC, we'll be at the task level. They'll be, micromanaging the first engine. No, come in. No, pull that in. Don't pull that line. Make sure this is, the incident commander, while sometimes you have to dip down, you have to stay at strategic level. And the best way to stay there is by delegating out to division commanders and quite honestly, is to have very solid policy on your initial scene assignments, on your arrival reports, on your reporting policies, on all those things. Allow the IC to stay where he is. Because if I know what my companies are supposed to be doing and they're in the place they're supposed to be, well, then I can concentrate on what's happening and what's going to happen. I got a really good compliment just a few weeks ago from a guy that I worked with. I hadn't seen in a while. And he goes, you know what you had that nobody else had? You are always 6 or 7 steps ahead of the fire. He goes, you always were ahead of that fire. And
so important.
What's that? Oh God, yeah.
So important.
Yeah. You are always ahead, and I thought that was a great compliment, because I always tried to be, where are we going next? But if I'm looking at this from a task level, or I'm looking at it and I'm overwhelmed because my span of control, and there's a very big one, span of control, you don't keep your span of control and the fires continues to escalate, you are screwed. The game is over. And that's a big issue with high rise too. And I know we will talk about that a little bit, but yeah, I just think that, the department has to have an incident commander is only as good as the departmental policy that supports what he's doing, and the discipline of the firefighters, going in 2 directions, supporting that as well. And I was great. I was very fortunate because North Hudson Regional was a very, very great place to learn these things, to try a lot of things out. And, we put 5 departments together of some of the people didn't want to be there, of extremely talented people, great captains, great firefighters, great chief officers. And we were able to do a lot of things that sort of made us what we are today, and I think that's important.
You had to pull them all into one system. That was the tough.
Exactly.
Tough piece.
I was in Weehawken, and Flood was the chief in Weehawken, and we were very policy driven, and we had a lot of fires. And a lot of people said, well, North Hudson's just a small Weehawken. I said, well, I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that.
What was the difference in the two?
Well,
what were the differences?
In Weehawken, I had 10 guy minimum. One was me, one was a pump operator, so I'm responding with 8 guys. In North Hudson, we have, I believe, and it's by no means even close to adequate. We have, I believe, the minimum is 67, and we cover 5 cities. 3 out of the 5 are in the top 5 of the most densely populated cities in America. We never have a fire without 2 exposure problems. It's always rush hour, and it's getting worse with the lightweight, pedestal construction. It's all over the place. The traffic is worse. But I think in Weehawken, we were a 1-line department. If we didn't put the fire out with the 1 line, we were out on the lawn. Now, we did a lot of automatic gate. Eventually, we were dispatched out of the same place as the other towns. So we almost were regionalized without a contract. And then in 1999, they merged everybody. And quite honestly, our best day in the old departments is not better than our worst day in the new department.
Hmm. Were you fast water before fast water was cool?
What we fast water? Well, we tried to be. We tried to be.
Yeah.
You got two guys on an engine.
You didn't really have much of an option. That was my first department too. It's like we had a 500-gallon booster tank and an 1 3/4 pre-connect, and if you didn't get it with that, you were screwed.
Well, we never used pre-connects. We pull everything off the back. We use the skid load in Weehawken, and now we still pull everything off the back. We don't use pre-connects, but our policies have made it so that we team up the first two engines. And then if it's above the third floor, the third engine also is on the first line. We bus wheel that line into place, which Bill Guston loved that term. And we got to get water on a fire. Is not more important than the first line. And I think our policies reflect that. But
it's fun. Things evolve out of necessity. And like in my situation, it was two of us and we were there for 5 minutes without anybody at least.
Yeah.
So that was the fastest method into. We did have it at Minuteman though, so we could run it up the stairs if we needed to, and everything was pretty close to the street.
Well, you covered a much bigger area too. Like we're only about 8 square miles, and maybe 4 of those are the Meadowlands. So you're talking 4 square miles and a really congested waterfront, and so our response time is really good. But it's the fire load is unbelievably heavy.
Yep. So you were an operator and longtime instructor. What can we do to better prepare our company officers that translate strategy into action on the street?
I think obviously the number one answer is always to train. You have to train, but your training has to have foundation. You have to have foundation. Your foundation is based on your SOPs, which are based on the books. And we took a lot of some of the things we did from Jersey City and New York City. When we first regionalized, we said, well, they're a bigger department. Let's take a look at what they do. But I think as a company officer, you have to understand that you're a part of a team. You cannot be rogue at any time. You have to fit into the game plan. If you think the game plan needs to be changed, you have to check that with the incident commander. Otherwise, people might not know exactly what you're doing. And now we start to get a little bit out of sync, and then things start to go bad. You look at the line of duty deaths. A lot of them, you get those dominoes start to fall, and a lot of those first dominoes had to do with guys doing what they were not supposed to do, or freelancing, or something like that. But I think a company officer has to be a student of the job, but they also have to be an instructor, and they have to learn how to be an instructor, because you know what, you got guys to teach. You can't be a lousy instructor and a great company officer at the same time. It doesn't work. That means you're selfish. That means that, you're worrying about your own and not so much about your guys. I think, I don't know. I just think you need to be the whole package, Yeah. That's what I think.
Every company officer has to be an instructor, whether you don't have to be teaching on a national level or whatever, but you have to be able to communicate and teach lessons and conduct training at the station. I mean, that's like 90% of what you should be doing when you're on duty.
Yeah, I think
somebody said if we spent all our time preparing for and training for, if we spent the majority of our time doing that, then the incidents wouldn't be that big a deal. No. And the rest of it's just fluff during the day.
Yeah, the rest of it is fluff. And then, the rest is also learning from stuff you haven't seen before. I think the most important trait is consistency. And I think that's really important.
What recent incidents or additional information did you have that inspired the changes to the high-rise section?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be involved with the Tall Buildings gang. We just did the thing at the FDIC. Jerry Tracy did the forward for the book, and from FDNY, and I'm very influenced by him. But We again, we're a short-staffed department, and we had to look at ways to do things that would help us in a high-rise situation. And quite honestly, one of the biggest ones was the span of control. You had to make sure you have a span of control. And I looked at it. If you're in the book, there are 6 things that have to be controlled by the fire department. And if you don't control them, I kind of stole it a little bit. I heard it from New York City, but I looked into it a little bit more, and I really, really sort of like indulged myself in it. And I came up with 6, and listen, New York City is a huge influence on North Hudson and my career as well. But, you don't control these things, the water supply, the communications, the transportation in the building, the humans in the building, and whether it's our people, the police, the EMS, the people in the building maintenance people, you have to control all these things. I can't think of the 6th one off the top of my head, but I think these are the things that allow you to create a policy and a program for your high-rise operations. Nobody should ever wing a high-rise fire. We're just going to wing.
Yeah.
You have to have a policy in place, and that policy now, what they've done is they now have a Hudson County interagency policies on air management, high-rise operations, marine operations, and because we don't all have the same threads. So everybody's got different threads, and they're moving a little closer to working a lot better together. Before we regionalized, we did it. We had common SOPs, we had common equipment, and we knew regionalization was in the air. We knew it was coming. So now it's just on a bigger scale with Jersey City and Hoboken and Bayonne, and that's that little department that Viscuso came from. What's that department? Kearney. But I think, high-rise is a 100-man fire. Nobody's fighting that fire by themselves for the most part in America, unless you're a very big city. And then as a very big city, you got to control the people. You can't let the cats out of the box. It's hard. It's hard. And I could tell you that almost every high-rise fire I went to, there was a curveball thrown. And you have to be prepared for a curveball. And the only way you're prepared for a curveball is if you're standing in the batters box and you're ready.
Yeah, and everybody has the building staff, the building engineers, security, and all that built into the plan. Mm-hmm. And my experience was that you could run a call on Monday at a high rise and work with the staff, and you think you're good, and then you go back to the same place on Thursday, and it's a different staff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're not necessarily.
I mean, they turn over. Yeah. Where's the keys to the sprinkler room? Do we have keys to the sprinkler room? Yeah, so if you sometimes we knew more about where things were than they did because they were constantly in turnover with those private security folks. So crazy stuff. So talking about the high-rise gang, I got to ask you this, and some people, they won't understand this unless they've actually seen you guys, but do you, Jerry Tracy, and Jack Murphy see eye to eye?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Physically? Which one's taller?
Physically, I think.
Which one of you are taller?
I think
you're taller.
I think I got him,
especially with a hat on.
But I'm not 100% sure.
Tracy still got Tracy and Murphy still got the hair kicking.
Yeah, they do. They do. That may help them. Like you. Yeah. That may help them a little bit with the height. Yeah. Good dudes though, man. I've learned a ton of stuff from those guys, and Jerry Tracy saw the doors, man. That's all he's got to do for me, and he's a god to me.
That's awesome. Talk a little bit about post-incident processing and after-action stuff. Mm-hmm. You got some of that in the book.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, in the 3rd chapter. It could be. It might be further on, but you can't just leave a fire or leave an incident and that's the end of it. We have policies in place. Our company officers will fill out after action reports. And in part of the after action report is a thing on the bottom called lessons learned. And if they don't fill that out, we give it back to them. And the beautiful thing about that is just the critique or the evaluation, better term now, I guess, might not be that, maybe a few days later, the guy may be on vacation, so we still have his input there, The other thing that we do is if the fire has is it's 2 alarms or more, I have to fill out a deputy chief's lessons learned, an incident commander lesson learned, and basically that goes about like what went right, what went wrong, um, what challenges we face with construction wise, fire wise, things like that. Where did the Joker pop out of the deck? If so, and then during our critique, we actually have a policy for critique on this is exactly how we do it. We cover these areas here, one being the safety officer input. We cover these areas here. And so it's, and prior to that, we do a post-fire analysis with the incident commander, the division commanders, possibly the safety officer, and maybe division commanders came in from Jersey City, Hoboken. So we listen to tapes, we look at video, we try and pre-plan the critique. Just like if you were doing a counseling session, you got to know all you need to know before you meet with the guy. So when we do our critique, unless something really pops out that's weird, we already know everything that happened at that fire. And the nice thing too about it at the end is we open it up to the floor. We let anybody talk about anything they want, what the good, bad, ugly, and and then what happens at the end of the year? Every 6 months, the department puts out the incident commander lessons learned. It's a publication. They probably do it electronically now. They put it out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller, depending on our workload. And it's not only a very good eyes on the street type of thing, pre-fire street intelligence, but it's also like a check. It's a check and balance for us on what went wrong here, what went right here. Because you can't fool the players. The players always know when something went wrong.
With that system in place where you have to do a written after action report, now with the generative AI, you could load all of that in to AI and it could it could look for common words and themes and produce just one heck of a document. Like you were talking about, you do it manually now every 6 months or whatever. That could be shored up tremendously with some of the new technology and all. And it could probably even look at incident reports and match things up and just produce some incredible training material for you.
Common denominators in incidents. I know they're I'm out 10 years. I know they're a lot further technologically there than they were when I was there. But listen, AI is great if it's used properly. That's the only way I see it.
Yeah, it's a tool, and it's going to be more and more. It's going to be more and more used for lots of things, but that's kind of the goal is it can put things together a lot faster than we can. Yeah. So if we're using it for something like that, it's awesome. All right. We were talking a little earlier. We were talking about my old high school radio station and showing you my new hat here. Our old favorite DJ bought the rights and has it on the internet. So let's talk some music. If there was a song that describes your philosophy of Fireground leadership, what would it be?
Interesting question.
The hokey pokey.
Yeah. Turn yourself around. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, welcome to the jungle, right? For me, music has always been a companion. It's always been something that's just listen. Either I got a TV show, a cartoon, a song going in my head 24/7. So sometimes it's hard for me to talk about things because there's something like Three Stooges, but all you need is love, maybe, because sometimes love's got to be tough. And sometimes the more people are wobbling out of control or the incident's wobbling out of control, the more love you got to give it, I'm just making this up now, but I was always a big fan of Hey Jude, take a sad song and make it better. Whenever that song probably has held me up in some of my worst times. Just hearing it, and sometimes it's weird. You're in a funk somehow, and bang, it comes on a radio, man, and then it's blast the friggin' thing. But that's tough because there are so many songs to choose from.
So what do you? You got your perfect rig, you got your perfect crew. Things are kicking. You got your headphones on in the rig. What button do you push when you're on the way to the fire? What song are you playing?
Well, when we talked about that a little bit, I have to go back to my days in high school before we played football, before we went out to play. And we played in my senior year, we were number one in the state of New Jersey, and we had an unbelievable team. And we played in Giant Stadium twice. And we were going out to play, and another team just came in, and they had lost. And I played with one of those kids in college. And we brought out a whole stereo system to the Giants locker room. And what we played before the game was Patton's war speech. No bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. He won that war by making the other poor bastard die for his country. Whenever I have a challenge, whenever I'm going, up against the wall, that always comes to mind for me, But then the other end of it, right after that, Black Sabbath. It just gets you ready to roll. It's just
lots of guitar and lots of distortion.
Exactly. When I was coaching at North Bergen, their tune, one of the years they won a states, that was "Nothing Else Matters" by Metallica, and I thought that was a really cool song to play, before the games. But of course I turned them on to the Patton speech.
I just saw last night. I was scrolling through and I saw the lead singer of Metallica doing a little tribute to Eddie Money, little acoustic guitar. Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Wow. I'm
phenomenal.
not a huge Metallica fan, but I've been getting more and more as time. I've seen them open for Ozzy with Randy Rhoads back at the Capitol Theater in 1981 or 80, and they opened. They were just kids, And then I saw them again.
And if you were wondering, no relation.
What's that?
I said, if you're wondering, no relation. I could strum a few chords on a guitar, but nothing like old Randy.
Nothing like Randy, But yeah, you know what? Music has shored me up and been a companion through my whole life, and especially in the worst times, and the best.
Yeah. Did you listen to anything? You listen to anything to get you out of a writer's block? Use that for anything, or?
No, I'll listen to. That's interesting.
Too distracting to have it on in the background.
Sometimes, but if I'm rolling, I'll turn it on. People always ask me how do you write? And I say, listen, you write a book one page at a time, but sometimes you write a paragraph at a time, and sometimes only a line at a time. I used to always carry a notebook. Now I got my phone, and my phone has so many notes on it. I'll just talk them in. And I just had, just today, that one I just wrote down. It's just things come out, and just in the conversation with people who are like-minded like you are, we're just, the wavelength has just always been the same, so, you have that brilliant way of throwing the quote out there as well, and, but I'll have music on it, and it just depends on my mood. I'm a big British rock guy. I'm Beatles, Stones, Kinks, Who, Pulse, Sabbath, Zeppelin, the Doors are American, but Pink Floyd, that is what gets me going,
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, the book is Fireground Strategies. It's in the 4th edition. You can get it at fireengineeringbooks.com or anywhere, even Amazon has it. So be sure to check it out. A beautiful cover there.
Great cover.
Little tribute to the Abbey Road fans. And Anthony, it's always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I love you, brother. And, thanks for all you're doing for fire engineering, man. You're really making a difference. And
yes, sir.
I'm on board all the time.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you in a few weeks, and FDIC will be here before we know it.
Yeah. Peace and love, man.
All right. Thanks, everybody. This one is in the books.